TV. Fortunately, I inserted the first H in this, otherwise it would be a little bit pessimistic. We are surrounded by existential threats today. Or rather, should I say, existential threats. It kind of deserves a bigger font and a sort of more foreboding and forbidding look. Humanity is threatened by potentially an asteroid from space, climate change, or artificial intelligence. The fabric of society is threatened by fake news, populist movements, or a new world order. And yes, I can sense from the audience that I could have just put 3 pictures of Donald Trump. And industry and commerce is threatened by new entrants, whether you're in the auto industry facing new entrants or the demise of the internal combustion engine. We've talked about the threat of online retailing. For many retailers, it's not just Black Friday, it's a dark day every day. And the media agency groups themselves, threatened by the commercial might of Facebook and Google, whose combined market capitalization dwarfs that of the combined top 5 media agency groups. Now, an average year in Ebiquity, what is an average year? We talk to a lot of clients, we hear a lot of the concerns, we share with them some of the concerns about existential threats. In the process of doing this, we're trying to provide solutions and we're trying to advise on where's the best place to put your money and where to make the right decisions. But one of the things that is becoming very clear from our conversations with clients is that mainstream advertising is at something of a crossroads and facing its own existential threat. Not just television, but advertising in total. Marketing is changing. Marketing departments are having to concern themselves much more with the path to purchase and the consumer journey. And media and advertising is only part of the solution. Digital measurement is easy, but it's short-term and it's incomplete. Audiences are fragmenting, as Jill has just said, as are the channels to reach them. Programmatic is failing to deliver on its promises. And TV, good old TV, is caught in the crossfire, either too old or ill-equipped versus GAFAN. By the end of the day, we'll be fed up with that particular acronym. So let's have a look at some of these things. And I know you're going to see some of the same charts or in different sort of cuts and formats throughout the day. We know that TV advertising skews towards older consumers at a time when everybody seems to be obsessing about the youth market, millennials. Stats like these don't really help the cause of TV. And about 3 years ago, it does appear we hit something of a tipping point. This looks at the impacts per capita by age group. Again, some of the same sort of data that we've been looking at. The dispersion of impacts post-2014 is really where I'd like to sort of draw your attention. The decline in 16 to 24s is notable. And one of the other things to note is if we zoom into 2014 onwards, and we look at the 16 to 24s and the next age group up, we see a potentially significant mirroring of the decline, just lagged by a couple of years. So here's 25s, 35s, and 16s to 24s. The shape of the drop is exactly the same, which suggests that the viewing habits of the younger age group are following them as they age. And those habits are linked to the changing market that Jill described, and we know what all of those issues are. And as we saw, the number of households subscribing to a VOD service is rising. So again, we see that rise. We see Netflix in red, the green of Amazon, blue is Now TV, and the black is the total line. But it's not just the rise that we should be concerned about. It's the rate of adoption. So this chart shows from the beginning of the 20th century how quickly new technologies are adopted, how quickly they reach 90% adoption or 90% penetration. throughout the 20th century, new technologies took something like 20 to 30 years to reach that 90% adoption. All those straight up lines on the right-hand side of the chart are things like digital cameras, mobile phones, et cetera, and they're straight lines. Adoption is happening much, much faster. Now, I realize that all of this suggests a less than cheerful prognosis for TV. But I believe it's always better to be an optimist, and it's always a good thing to stick in a Churchill quote into a presentation. And we're all familiar with a SWOT analysis, and for every threat and weakness, we should be looking also for the strength and opportunity. So let's now look at the opportunity for TV. And it's quite ironic where that comes from. For 10 years, and this is a headline from 2006, it's been 10 years since we've been declaring the death of TV. For 10 years, it was 4 digital media legs good, 2 TV legs bad, a true sort of digital animal farm. And then something funny happened about 18 months ago. This little bubble on the chart started to burst. And it started when, really with the Advertising Association in North America, talked about the issues of media transparency. And what has followed has been a sort of catalogue of issues over the last 18 months. And I'll go through some of these, because some of it's in quite small print. June 2016 was the ANA report. September, Dentsu overcharging advertisers for digital ads. October, Facebook admits inflating video views. January 2017, Mark Pritchard's seminal speech about transparency of digital. February, global coverage of brands funding terrorism, pornography, white supremacy, everything else under the sun. 250 brands withdrew their advertising from YouTube in March. May, Facebook refunds clients due to data error. Then in the same month, we, along with AdFin, ANA, and ACA, released a report on the cost of the programmatic ecosystem, where we were able to show that for every dollar going into it, only 15 cents was getting to consumers. And then in September, Facebook able to tell us that they could reach more people than actually exist in the universe. I worry about that. On top of everything, from our own work, but it's not just our work that reveals the same trend. So this is 2,000 campaigns that are rigorously examined for return on investment. The average return of digital display in terms of effectiveness is disappointing. TV is on the left, and online display is the second in from the right. Now, faced with all of that, the opportunity is one of confusion amongst advertisers. So this survey took place in March this year, and it's the same audience asked a variety of different questions. And on the left, do you expect your digital display investment to change in 2018 versus 2017? 67%, the 2 left-hand dark blue bars, saying they expect it to increase, anywhere between 1% and 40%. Those same respondents on the right-hand side in the bottom right corner, between half and 2/3 are saying they are not satisfied with the measurement of online display activity, nor the reporting of it, nor the performance of it. This is slightly schizophrenic. Maybe, just maybe, the thing that will prevail is commercial sense. And many of you will have seen this. From July this year, P&G cuts more than $100 million in largely ineffective digital ads. Now that's $100 million in 1 quarter. And even I can calculate 4 times 100. And that's one company. This is not just a CMO issue. It's a corporate board issue. It's an investor and shareholder issue. And proper, balanced assessment of media investment across all media needs to prevail rather than chasing the latest shiny thing. It's too serious. And that brings us onto the strengths that TV possesses. The issue with the strengths, however, is that there needs to be a stronger and more compelling narrative around TV. And kind of it's the way you tell them. A former colleague of mine, Sam Knowles, is bringing out a book next year, and this isn't a plug, it's more that I was really impressed by the idea of narrative by numbers. He said the trouble is, most people aren't very numerate or good at statistics. Many find it hard to look at data and extract insights. Meanwhile, those for whom numbers hold no fear don't always make the best storytellers. We need to turn the numbers into a more compelling narrative, and we need to do that at a more senior level and a broader level within corporations. Now, we've worked extensively with ThinkBox in the UK and Think TV in Australia, and both of those bodies are making great strides at creating a stronger narrative. And some of you may have attended the UK ThinkBox event last month, where the issue of TV's contribution to the corporate profit total was covered. The event looked at both short-term returns and long-term returns with data and analytics from ourselves and from a competitor company called Game Theory. And it was amazing the extent to which our two companies overlapped in terms of our understanding of what the returns were. The overall takeout is generating quite a lot of debate and coverage because, put simply, TV delivers the biggest share of profit return in the short term. So on this slide, you see across the campaigns we measured, TV was 54% of spend, generating 62% of profit in the short term. And in the long term, TV drives an even greater share of campaign profit. Why? Because TV is scalable and it has the best long-term multiplier effects. So businesses should be interested in, and all of us should be interested in, scalable ROI. It's what I called responsible ROI at the ThinkBox event. ROI which delivers significant returns in volume. And TV is very good at that. TV has real scale. It reaches the part that mere views do not. And I'm just going to show a couple of figures. So here is an example of a clip. I'm not going to say where it was from because it kind of doesn't matter. Here's a clip that had 81,000 views, a clip that had 239,000 views, a clip that had over 500,000 views. And just look at the numbers when expressed in a currency that we would understand from a TV measurement. 2.8 TVRs for 600,000 views. The point is to understand the extent to which a big number in and of itself is often not a big number when put into the language of traditional media measurement. And what about the too old issue? Now, my family said to me, you have a vested interest here, Dad, don't you? So that was the chart we looked at before. Well, maybe not too old, because the evidence would suggest that we should perhaps be obsessing, instead of obsessing about millennials and 16 to 24s, about economically valuable audiences. This survey from Hitachi Capital and the CBR in May this year showed how Britons over 50s are leading the economy. They spend more than the under 50s. Their contribution is growing much faster than the under 50s and has been for the last 5 years. They are now the dominant force in the UK economy, and they are reached by television. Over 50s own 3/4 of all financial assets and account for half of all discretionary spending power in developed countries. In America, they control 4/5 of the money invested in savings and loan associations and own 2/3 of all shares on the stock market. Good, bad, ugly. I've tried to present the glass empty, the glass full, and in reality, TV is probably somewhere in the middle. but I genuinely believe in the opportunity and the necessity for the narrative to mobilize on 4 fronts. For the industry, number 1, get marketers and boards to buy into the profit opportunity, short and long term, that is contained within TV. Number 2, show that addressable TV delivers effective exposure, brand safety, and strong ROI. For advertisers, insist on getting an equivalence measurement currency for GAFAN channels. We need to be able to make like-for-like choices, and then properly test all and any new channels before investing at scale. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Does anybody have a question for Andrew before we move on? Are we going to go on? Don't be shy. You're all still cold. Yeah, there's one over. Can we get a mic over? We're going to take one. Just get a mic. Stick your hand up.
In the middle down here.
In the middle here. In the middle. All the way along. You just say who you are and where you're from, and then we'll take it from there.
Hi, Pascal Jacquet from RTO Group. I just had a question regarding the comparison of TV and GAFA. Is that something that you see as possible? Because how can you compare a 30-second video clip that is on a small mobile screen versus a linear spot on the TV? I think each media has a different purpose, so it's always going to be very hard to find one metric that GAFA will support and that the TV guys will support, because everyone has their own interests. So I feel like that's a unicorn that will never happen, because everyone will, obviously put their best foot forward. Plus, the media is so different with different purposes and value in each, right? You have a value for direct consumption versus lean back. So I don't really see where that one metric will ever materialize.
Okay. I'm not going to ask for a fire alarm to go off. I think we need to look at it from the other end, which is, why do we advertise? Why do we invest? And there is one metric, actually, and that is to improve the performance of the business. And the way we do that is there are measurement techniques to do that. We need to take into account that certain messages do try and deliver a direct response, a short-term, sort of adrenaline shot, and that others build brand, and that as we build brand, we also build business performance, which was the nature of the work that we were doing, where we looked at the long and short-term impact on total profit. The thing is, in order to do that, you need to have a consistent measurement and a comparison measurement in terms of how many people we're reaching and how many people are responding, either through brand engagement or direct sales. So I think we need to think about what is the purpose of what we're doing. We're trying to build brand and business growth, and we need to be able to do that by having some comparison metrics.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Andrew.